Hello, I'm Euge Valovirta, and this fourth episode of music business from artists and labels point of view is about a different job titles in the business, mainly or actually only inside a record label. What kind of job titles there are, what kind of personnel, and what those people do. Okay, so let's actually go directly to the screen where I have prepared a PowerPoint. So as you can see here, I have a management section open. So record labels, like management department, is basically like in any other business. You have your managing director, who's responsible of the whole, let's say, label in Finland. So he's or she, managing director, is label responsible for everything, responsible that the goals, they fulfill the goals, the P&L is profitable, and so on. So yeah, and a general manager is, as you can see, it's the second. It's kind of the same. It depends on the organization. Let's say Universal Music has a, at least when I worked there, the head of Scandinavia, head of Nordics was called the general manager, and then different countries, those people who run different, who were the heads of different countries were called managing directors. So managing director of Finland, Sweden, and so on. And the general manager was a person that was responsible for the whole Nordics. Financial director, pretty basic. That's general managers and managing directors' best friend. At least it should be. He or she is responsible for, finances. Sometimes managing directors or general managers might have ideas that are, amazing and futuristic and stuff, and then usually the financial director is the voice of how would I call it? Sense. So, a bit coffee. And commercial director, that's sometimes you have it. It's like kind of like, financial director is managing director's right hand. Commercial director could be left hand. Usually, he's responsible for, because managing director or general manager is responsible for everything, but the commercial director could be responsible for, let's say, all marketing units of certain area or whatever. And marketing director, responsible for marketing, and I'll get back to that later, the marketing department. And label manager is like what I was. Also, I was an A&R, but I was at one point I was also a label manager. So label manager is because let's say Universal Music Finland, because I work there, so it's easy for me to tell those things. They had sub-labels like Spinefarm, Johanna Kustannus, and so on. And all of those sub-labels had like people who were responsible for the P&L, profit and loss, and so on. So label manager is that person who runs a certain label. Like Spinefarm, we were focused on a rock and metal, and then some other label was focused on some other type of music. Okay, that was a management department. Then A&R, which stands for Artist and Repertoire. I've done a separate video of that because it's quite a large thing. A&R is usually involved in everything in label, at least one way or another. But the A&R team, usually there's a head of A&R who's responsible for the big picture, and then there's A&R Manager, which because usually, like, well, in Universal we had a head of A&R, and then we were A&R managers, and you know, I was responsible for the rock and metal Spinefarm, and there was people who were responsible for, let's say, pop or rap, whatever was their niche, so to say. Because, you know, if there was some questions about, you know, rock or whatever music, then I was the guy who turned to, because that was my niche. And A&R consultant, like what I do now. You know, if they have a, let's say, I do for Universal Music, if they have a, let's say, new artist which is more into rock or metal, they want my opinion, they're considering signing or whatever, and, you know, then I give my opinion, and that might lead to me being taken care of that project or not. So, yeah, A&R consultant. Marketing department. This is really important, because no matter how good the artist, the album or the song is, if it isn't marketed correctly, nobody will know that it exists, and then you don't have a career, the artist. So these titles, sometimes they cause a bit of confusion, because head of local, that means head of local marketing. It's like, I don't know why it is, it's just a thing that that it's like commonly used, that you don't put the marketing in there. But head of local, if you see a business card, like head, what local, what head? So it's local marketing. So that means that a person is responsible for the local artists. Like in Finland, head of local is responsible for a domestic Finnish artists' marketing. And head of international, since Universal or any other big labels, or most of the labels, I guess nowadays, they have international repertoire. So, you know, let's say Eminem releases a new album, then the head of international is responsible for that. So head of international is responsible for all the international artists and releases and their marketing. Head of digital, responsible of digital management, as the name suggests. So person usually works, there might be several head of digital local, head of digital international, but that person also could work both. So person is responsible for digital marketing, which is ever growing nowadays, since most, you know, magazines and everything is kind of digital now. So that's really important person. Product manager, this is usually in production involved, or there's a product manager also on that. But in marketing, a product manager could be that that person is responsible for, let's say, re-releases of okay, let's say we have a campaign, we're gonna re-release old Children of Bodom albums. The Spinefarm still has. Then usually there's a dedicated product manager. Okay, you take care of this campaign and make sure that it goes fine. So that's kind of that, at least to my experience. Marketing/promotion manager, also known as PR person. Nowadays, at least in Universal, they're called marketing managers because they do a lot more than promotion and PR. Because I mean, that is the person that an artist, when you release an album, you have a dedicated A&R, and you usually have a dedicated marketing and promotion manager. And like A&Rs have a roster of artists, marketing and promotion manager also has a dedicated roster of artists, which he or she is responsible for promoting and marketing. And what that means, like I explained on the Spotify video, marketing, what that person does. So basically, he or she takes care of that people know that the album is out, the artist is out. He takes care of the interviews, he arranges them, like everything that isn't related to our music or the. But he could be involved, or she could be involved in that too, because A&R and marketing, just promotion manager, is probably the two closest persons that works with the artists. And then a publicist in some countries, marketing/promotion manager is called publicist, or some people call that. But these are marketing, promotion manager, and publicist. They are the same. Okay. Sales sales manager. Well, there's not much of it. This is a bit of a dying breed, because at least to my experience at Universal, the sales manager was a person who was responsible of selling the physical CDs to record stores, like I mentioned in the Spotify video, so that a record store don't really sell CDs to consumers. Okay, maybe they have a mailing list or some mail, catalog, like Nuclear Blast has a really big. They do a great job with that. They have a newsletter, and then they have a big warehouse where they actually do B2C business. But usually, my experience at Universal, it was B2B. So the sales manager is the one who sells the CDs, like, hey, we have this new album coming out. If you take 1,000, you get this and this at price, and blah blah blah. So he sells and negotiates the deals, agrees the prices, decides or is involved if they're gonna do some mid-price stuff or campaigning or stuff. So that's sales managers usually is working with the physical products. Music and brands. This is quite interesting and has been really growing lately, I think, because there's how do I say it? There might not be that much of money anymore, let's say, to put into music videos, because before internet there was music TV, who actually showed music videos, and they paid pretty well for the copyright rights to the right holders. So you could actually put a lot of managing music videos, and you would get back to from because it was aired on TVs worldwide. Okay, YouTube pays and stuff, but it's not that much as a nationwide or worldwide TV channels were paying. So I'm gonna take this music video thing as an example. Music and brands, they work on a lot of other stuff, but I worked, to my experience, what I worked with was with music videos. So we had a department, let's say this certain band. We had a great idea of a music video. That idea was expensive, and our budget was not that big, so we were like, what are we gonna do? And then I hooked up with our head of music and brands manager, and hey, can we get some brands involved into this? Maybe they could fund and stuff. So we got, and we managed to do it like it's not that obvious. I mean, there's videos of, let's say, quite many metal bands, and on those videos there's the reindeer head, which is a logo of a certain alcohol drink brand. On one video there was on the kick drums there were two of those heads, and it was filmed when it there wasn't any mention of the brand, but it was like, oh, okay, they paid for this video, cool. So that kind of stuff. So it's one example. And then the music and brands, they contact the company and, hey, we have this idea, this artist, could we do something, would you be interested on? Or I was contacted with one brand that, hey, we'll be mostly working with rap artists, but we would like to do something with a rock band. Do you have any new rock bands we could, do some cooperation? And then we did a couple of music videos, and so that's kind of thing. And the brand partnership manager is basically it's head of music and brands, right or left hand. So yeah, that's there's a lot of other stuff, just not just music videos, but whatever branding. You see some artist wearing certain jewelry or whatever, that's usually music and brands is involved, or maybe the artist has agreed that to him or herself. Yeah, you don't know. Production. Okay, this is sometimes misunderstood, because production in the record label doesn't mean the music producer who produces the actual album and is artistically responsible for that, or in the movies where it's financially, or when you say executive producer in music business, it's usually the one who pays the bills, which is the record label. But production inside the record label that's really important, especially nowadays. Product manager or production manager is the one who makes sure that the album, songs, everything, that on the release date they are being released on the correct time and stuff. So that person takes care of a lot of you have to be, at least in Universal, you have to have a certificate that you could access to those systems and how to use those. So when I was an A&R, I gave just a product manager or production manager, and like, okay, here's the album. Here's the album cover, this is coming out this and this date, here's the first single, here's the cover, here's the label copy, and the label copy is like, everything is written, who played what, who wrote, blah, blah, blah. And then that person writes all the data in the systems. so that when you check out from, let's say, Spotify or Apple Music, there's info, record label, songwriters, maybe, I don't know if there's songwriter info, I guess there is on some platforms, whatever info that's done by a product manager. And there's also a lot of other metadata info that you don't see but have to be there so that the royalties and everything would go accordingly. So if product manager makes a mistake, then that's usually noticeable. Remember one example when Machine Head released 2 singles on the same day. That wasn't the plan. They were supposed to release 1 single and then the second single a little bit afterwards, closer to the album release, which you usually do. But somebody fucked up and pressed the wrong button or coded something wrong, and that was probably the product manager. And if I understood correct, Mr. Rob Flynn wasn't happy, and I wouldn't be happy too. So I guess the product manager, he or she was informed what that people are not satisfied. That's really important. And the project coordinator is sometimes when you have, at least in Universal, you have like multiple things going on at the same time, and it's good to have one person that kind of coordinates everything. Okay, because Universal, there's several product managers. Okay, one is doing that, one is doing that, and blah blah blah, and the product coordinator should have everything under, so he or she knows what's going on, who takes care of what, and who's responsible if you suddenly release 2 singles on the same day and not 1. Okay. Well, finance, like usual, there's a chief accountant, and accountant takes care of the finances, and a royalty manager is really important. Before this whole digitalization, I mean, counting the royalties, because we at Spinefarm we paid them out twice in a year, and that was those months before, a couple of months were like, really working from morning to night, because there was a person who actually calculated this by hand. Person got all the sales reports from all over the world, and then he actually calculated everything. He or she had all the bands, record deals. Okay, what's their royalty percent? Okay, after 50,000 it grows to this. Okay, now how much is it? So it was but nowadays it's digitalized. So when the product manager writes the infos of the songs into the system where it goes to everywhere, the person also writes their, at least if, to my knowledge, I might be wrong, but this is how I at least understood it when I worked there, how this works. So the person wrote there like the royalty percents, what are the shares between the band members and everything. And then when the song, let's say, is being played on a Spotify, the system calculates that kind of real time, but what the info is there, okay, where this $0.006 or euros will go, how it's divided, so that's automatized. Now, it was a big thing when that happened, and it was worked quite many years, but finally I guess it started to work about a couple of years ago. And actually, at least Universal's artists, they have this royalty portal where they can go and see real time, like where the royalties are coming from, how much is coming in, how much is being paid to them. So it's really transparent, at least the Universal, so people can actually see by their own eyes how much their money they're getting or how little. So and that royalty manager, that person is responsible for that everything works. So the person sends the statements still, even if artists, but sometimes people are not that good with computers, and many, especially older artists, are accustomed that they will get the statement twice a year where it says, it's hundreds of Excels, but at the end there's a line where it says, how much? When can I send the invoice? So they're still being sent out, but royalty manager doesn't have to calculate them anymore by him or herself. Of course, if there's something looks strange, then he or she might check out that, is this really correct? Usually it is. Okay. And then some other people, art director. So yeah, the name suggests Universal Music. There's a team. So one is the AD, who is responsible for the visual image of releases or artists, whatever image, and graphic designer. Like on Spinefarm, we had a legendary guy. Really, yeah, you have to know him. Great designer. He came up with those Spinefarm slogans, and he still works there and designs a lot of album covers, booklets, sometimes from the scratch, or sometimes the band has their own designer who has, let's say, painted a painting and the band wants to use that. Then the in-house graphic designer takes care of it and does his or her thing with the computer so that the painting is actually, yeah, I don't know about the process, but yeah. So and if you use an artist use an outside designer, then the in-house graphic designer will be involved, because there's certain things have to be certain way, the files and everything. So yeah, and Universal has video producers. Mostly they do these videos to social media, promote artists, stuff. I mean, many artists can do a lot of things by themselves, but there's a team, a couple of guys who are really good at creating content for artists and with the artists. They even do sometimes music videos also in-house. Yeah, the slideshow ended. So that was about it, about the people who works at the labels, or in this case that was based on my experience being A&R and label manager at the Universal Music Finland, Spinefarm Finland, for about 10 years. There might be other job descriptions and stuff, but I think I covered the basic ones who are working at a record label. Hey, hopefully you found this informative and interesting. If you did, please thumbs up and subscribe, and yeah, stay tuned for in the future for more videos about music business and music, and especially guitar playing. So until next time, take care, bye.